Swinging wet flies is a lot of fun. It's a different kind of fishing, and the conditions have to be right. Generally want kind of lower, clearer water, and you want some nice uniform current. We have a nice uniform riffle here, and if you see the occasional rise, that's even better. But swinging a wet fly is a great thing to do in the wind, because you're not doing any false casting. Your line is on the water. The wind's not blowing your indicator or your dry fly around. You don't have to deal with throwing a big heavy streamer. You just pick up those lightly weighted wet flies, put them back down, and let them swing in the current. It's a very relaxing, fun way to fish. So I like to fish 2 wet flies at the same time. I find that 2 wet flies works better. I think that maybe the sight of 2 flies swinging in front of the fish excites them or attracts their attention. But anyway, I always go with 2 flies, usually a bigger fly and a slightly smaller fly. So what I do is I've got some 4X tippet here, and I'm going to take another piece about 6 inches, about maybe 6-8 inches above where I'm going to tie on my lower fly, and I'm going to tie a surgeon's knot. Tie the second piece on with a triple surgeon's knot. Test your knot, and then you're going to cut the upper strand off. That's your tag end. So you're going to just cut that off. Put that extra piece of tippet somewhere where you can dispose of it later, inside your waders or something, in a pocket. And then you want that dropper to be, I don't know, 4 inches long. You don't want it too long because it'll tangle. That's probably about right, so I'll cut that back a little bit. Oops, shouldn't have used my teeth. And so I'm going to put 1 fly, usually the bigger fly, on the lower piece of tippet, and a smaller fly on the upper piece of tippet, so they'll swing together in the current. I'm going to use 2 soft tackles. They're just wet flies without wings. And I will pick a bigger one for kind of an attractor. I'll try this one here. And then I'll put a smaller one on below it. So I got this bigger one, and it's kind of olive because there's some little olive mayflies on the water, olivey yellow. And then the smaller one is also going to be olive. But you can see that, one's quite a bit bigger than the other. And give the fish a choice. And again, generally, I put the smaller fly on the upper piece of tippet. So you can make this wet fly swinging as easy as you want, and just throw it across the current and just let it swing on a tight line. You don't have to do anything. Just throw it out there and let it swing around behind you. Maybe make a couple strips at the end and pick it up and throw it back. So you can see in a wind like this how nice that is. Just make one quick cast, put it back out there, and let it swing in the current. Now, you probably want to make it a little bit more complicated. So what most people do, and I'd advise it, is make a cast and then mend upstream. That mend, just a quick flip of the line, gives those flies a chance to sink, and then as the line comes around tight, they rise up toward the surface and hopefully interest the fish. Don't false cast when you're fishing wet flies like this, especially on a windy day like today. You got 2 flies on there, the chance for tangling. You don't need to false cast. You don't need to dry the fly off. Keep your cast short, just pick it up and put it back down. The one thing you want to remember when swinging wet flies is if a fish takes the fly downstream of you on a tight line. Do not set the hook. Let the fish hook itself, and it will. If you try to set the hook, you'll often pull it out of their mouth. There's a small, whoop! Like I said, you're gonna lose a lot of them. Now you can change the angle of fishing soft tackles like this. If you want, you could throw the flies directly upstream. Then you're gonna have to watch the tip of your floating line, and if it straightens, set the hook. And then you can let it swing around and let it tighten, and so the flies have had a chance to sink a little bit more. If you have really slow current, you probably want to throw directly across the stream. That gives your flies a little bit more swing. If you have super fast current, then you probably want to angle a little bit more downstream because you don't want that really abrupt fast swing at the end. So you can control the swing by the angle that you cast and also by mending line. Another thing you want to remember is that you want to follow the fly with the tip of your rod. Just keep the tip of the rod pointed at the fly. You don't want a big angle between the fly and the tip of the rod. You want always pointed and just follow along with the tip of the rod. Generally, when you're swinging wet flies, you want to work downstream. Just makes it easier. You cover new water each cast. It doesn't really make, most of the time we like to fish upstream, fish dry fly, fish nymphs, we're fishing upstream. We like to work upstream. But when swinging wet flies, you want to get up to the head of the run or the riffle or whatever, and then work down through it because you're going in that direction. When you're fishing downstream like this, you're going to miss a lot of fish, especially little fish. They're going to slap at the fly, and because you're directly upstream, you may not hook them. So don't worry if you don't hook every fish. In fact, you won't. You'll get little bumps, you'll get taps, you'll see a swirl. You'll eventually hook them, but don't wig out if you don't hook every fish that takes your flies. But this is nice water for swinging wet flies. Perfect speed. Oh, there's one. Whoa. Oh, it looks like a brown too. Nice. When you're playing a fish like this, decent sized fish, you want to try to keep that fish upstream of you if you can. And then you can just get his head up, lead him down into the net, and bingo.